someone who will... Yes, you want to say something?
You finish. You're done.
I'm just saying that we need a quick knock about Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much for staying with us. Now let's get the show on the road. After Ayo has finished quid-nunking. There are some in Nigeria who think that our problem is our size, the size of our country, and some others who think that it is the many interests struggling for domination. Others think it is all about bad leadership, while some believe it is the Constitution. Well, whatever it is you think, I'm sure each person, each reason has its
merits, validation.
Merits. But Nigeria has consistently ranked low in World Governance Index in areas such as government effectiveness, political stability, the presence of violence and terrorism, rule of law, and the control of corruption. Some even argue that failure to address the fundamental problem of bad governance will continue to produce the same outcomes. So, what is the state of our nation today? That is very broad, and I'm sure we're not going to be able to cover all aspects of it, but we will do the best that we can in the little time that we have. And to help us do this, it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Bamidele, a human capital developer. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Thank you. And joining us from Abuja is...
We're going to have them later. I'd like us to, if you don't mind, begin with Mr. Bamidele.
Okay.
You know, each time I hear State of the Nation, two things come to mind. Number one, when the U.S., the president of the U.S. that addresses the nation.
State of the Union.
State of the Union.
Yes.
The second thing that comes to my mind is military government in Nigeria.
Please don't remind us of those dark days.
But those days had their good thing, because I still say that some of the most, how do I put it, durable
Third Mainland Bridge
infrastructure that we've had, they are from those generations, sadly.
Because there was plenty of money at that time.
We didn't have that kind of money.
Oh, we had a lot of money.
Third Mainland Bridge.
We had a lot of money.
In the 70s, yes. Oh, well, Mr. Bamidele, what do you think?
Wow. I was at the lobby watching you and my sister talking, and when you started talking about the wall that took 600 years to build, that got me thinking. And I was asking myself, you asked the question, how many generations will have done that? Definitely not one, definitely not two, most likely not three. But then the question is, how were they able to accomplish that? It shows that, number one, there was a clear direction. Number two, generation after generation were, they keyed into that vision.
Yeah.
So there was ownership. And anything that anyone owns, please mark my word, immediately you take ownership of something, the journey to success has begun. Now, you were asking, where are we today? You have made my work easy, sincerely speaking, way to your conversation. Now, you said there are plenty interests just fighting here and there. Again, while I was there, you were talking about 770-something duplexes.
753.
I saw that within the week, and it was really sad. Because the question is, at the end of the day, where is the nation in this mix? So, I grew up in Ijebu. Please permit me. And as a young secondary school boy, I lived on the same street with the then governor, Bisi Onabanjo. The street is called Fidipote, for those who are familiar with Ijebu-Ode. Ayo, that house is sitting on a land space that is possibly less than half of a plot, of what we call a plot today. Number two, that house was not fenced. I was a young boy from a family that is just struggling to make board. Anytime he comes around, there's no razzmatazz around him. You can see him. These were people who loved their nation. And growing up, I had a story that there's a big market called a Tausu market in Ijebu-Ode. You know, it was during his time it was built. And I learned that the contractor that built that project went to meet him to say, we are done with the project. How do we say thank you to you? That suggests two things to me. Number one, there was no padding of that. There was nothing for him in there. Because if there was, the contractor will not go to ask, how do we say thank you to you? You know what we were told? This man said to the contractor, there's a road called Molipa Express Road today in Ijebu-Ode. For anyone, I'm saying, you know, I'm on a live whatever, and I'm mentioning name. The man said, I don't need anything. But there's a part of the city I want to open up. Can you please go and do that road and let that be what you are giving me to say thank you? Now, these were men who took ownership of the leadership privilege they had. It wasn't about how do I become 1,000,000 times richer than I was before I came in. It's all about how do I better the lot of my people. So one thing, I discovered that the generation before and the generation now, one thing is missing. That is love for the nation and love for the people. Immediately we get that back into our narratives. I tell you, we have maybe some of the best brains around the world. Check multinationals that are doing well around the world. You will likely find one or two Nigerians. So it's not the debt of knowing
one or two Nigerians at the top.
At the top, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. At the top, making things happen.
Mr. Bamidele, what do you think is responsible for the kind of greed that we see now that will make one person decide to own 753 duplexes? You find, you know, boxes and boxes of money in flats in Ikoyi, money that the grandchildren cannot even finish spending. They are greedily amassing.
Yeah.
What has happened to us? What has happened to the humanity in Nigerians?
It's really heartbreaking. But if you ask me, I will say that this narrative actually begins from home. And this is what I mean. Growing up, I would see my father put on his radio. And on that radio, I still remember up till now, there were some radio jingles we used to listen to. I will say one or two. They are in Yoruba language, and I will try to interpret. You will hear something like, Erojo lehe omu, Omo yo shagbafo, Onkashowale, Erojo lehe omu. What does that mean? Your son is not a laundry person. Your son is not a dry cleaner, yet he's coming home with clothes and materials that are not his. How else do you identify a thief? I don't know if I did justice to that interpretation.
You try.
Now,
B.A. Yoruba.
And then it's on and on. So you will see your parents say to you that I remember very well. Every day as you are coming back from school, you already know it's a routine. Your mother is standing at the door. Everybody, give me your bags. And your parents will take time to scrutinize the content of your bag. They know what they gave you, and they know what they did not give you. And if anything that they have not given you is found in that bag, you already know
that your life will not remain the same.
Your life will not remain the same.
Won't be tied to you.
That your life will not remain the same. Now, fast track. We are now in a time when parents sit down and tell their children, I don't care how you
make the money.
Do it. Can't you see your mates? Can't you see even people younger than you? So the craze to prove that we have also succeeded, we have arrived. I think it began from home, and then it builds up into every sector of our daily living.
Okay, Alora, I think you need to bring on the two other guests before I fire my next question.
Mrs. Juliet Benitie, National Transformation Leadership, Women Leadership Expert. She's of the Institute of National Transformation. She's joining us from our studio in Abuja. Good morning, Mrs. Benitie. And
Good morning.
So is Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Monday Ubani. Good morning. He's also in Abuja somewhere. Good morning, Mr. Ubani.
Thank you very much, Alera, for having me. Good morning, Ayo, and of course all our guests that are also with me. Good morning to all of you.
Well, let me go to Abuja. We're talking about the state of the nation, madam, and I know that you've been listening for a bit to the things that we're talking about. I listened to, so let me take it from what Mr. Bamidele said, the comment that he made. I listened to Dr. Samadiyemi talking during their last conference, the leadership conference, when he was saying that innovative leadership starts with love. That is not something that I know is taught in leadership or business school. You don't teach love. So imagine that it is now centralized to talk about leadership and love in one sentence. How does that come across to you? And do you think we're anywhere close to that?
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here again. The reality is that the love quotient at the international level, there's a measurement for what they call the love quotient in leadership. Wow. And the love quotient can be defined in many ways for nations, organizations, and family. And of course, in society as well as the religious sector. But the love quotient for nationhood, because there are pillars where nations succeed. Why nations succeed, there are pillars why these nations will succeed. One of those pillars is the love quotient, but is well defined at the national level as patriotism, love for country. Everybody is created to occupy a nation, and the love for your country determines your development speed, your development capacity. When people do not love their nation, they will not build it. So we have a love issue. One of the greatest, the precondition even for democracy to succeed is love for country. And that love for country has diminished. In the days of my fathers, in the 60s and the 70s, you saw men who loved their country because they were actually taught to love the country. The love of country or love of people is not automated, it is taught. You need to be orientated, go through reorientation as the case may be. And that's why I'm interested in the national, the office, is it a national orientation agency, which we have in conjunction with the Ministry of Information. When we do not have love for country, I don't care what projects we do, what we set to do, we will never succeed. Nigeria is bereft, whether at the elite class level or people who are poor and needy. There is a dislike for the country that is so strong that all people want to do is take from the country for their own personal agendas. No nation will work because love is the base for real justice. For you to have justice in the society, you must love the country to put it in order. And when there is no order, the nation begins to degrade. And so Nigeria needs to recognize that we have lost something down the line, especially because of all the coup plotting, all the military regimes that we actually acknowledge as leadership, which is not. And that's the bedrock of our problems. So when we come into leadership just to take and benefit, the love for country is not there. So Dr. Sam Adeyemi is hitting strong on a development quotient that is being measured today, that love for country, love for society, love for family determines the success of vision. Because vision in itself is something that is birthed out of an individual. If that individual does not have love, that vision will be a lie, because he will operate that vision to the degree of his own. And that's why when you see within the state government, which is where we really have our problems is not at the federal. Our problem is with the state governors. The state governors who own the state, the issue of the Land Act within the state, the issues of agriculture, development plan at its foundation is meant to be handled by the state governors and the local government. Because that's where the touching of the people begins. Where we talk about love for country, love for the people. Where we have development plan because we love them. When you are a leader and you don't care, you don't have compassion, you can't lead right. So truly that measurement at the international level has become a discourse, because they found that the nations that develop, one of the prerequisites to development is patriotism. Whether it's Singapore, whether it's South Korea, and even China. That's why the fact that China is a communist nation, when it came to the economics, the economy atmosphere of China, they began to be more liberal, because the average Chinese has been taught to love and die for China. Even South Korea, as it were, with the poverty there, you see so much love for country, but the love is also something that they are questioning. How much is it that they love themselves more than they love the people? So there is a measurement for that. So we need to look at that in the development plan of a nation. At the stage of Nigeria as she is, the lack of love, especially at the early class, that has the capacity to change lives. We're more interested in contracts than people. We're more interested in buildings than people.
Perhaps one of the issues there,
the love for nationhood is building of people.
Perhaps one of the issues here is, to even know what that love quotient is. I'm very sure that a number of people are hearing love quotient for the first time. Some are very well aware of intelligence quotient. Some are aware of emotional quotient, emotional intelligence, the EQ. But now LQ is now being mainstreamed. That's another conversation altogether.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about patriotism and love for country, my heart, well, my mind strayed to all kinds of places. Love for country. It makes you wonder, do the leaders love their country? Do the leaders love the people? When I think about what Mr. Bamidele said about a governor who said, instead of giving me anything, go and open up this area. I want my people to have this. Do we still have leaders who think that way? Governor after governor is being chased when they leave office by EFCC because they have dipped their hand in the till. Does this speak of people who love their country, who love their people?
I like Mr. Ubani to take that, because, I mean, he's had to circulate.
It's from Mr. Ubani, actually.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't specify. Mr. Ubani.
So, Alera, what's the question?
Do we still have leaders who love this country and who love the people who have elected them into office?
It's a very difficult question you have thrown to me to talk about whether there are leaders who actually love the country and also love the people. As my sister has rightly pointed out, the issue of input of love in governance is very critical. It takes It takes love for you to sit down and say, what are the infrastructures that are lacking in my state or in the country that I need to put for the benefit of the people? It takes love for those who work at the airport not to show high level of hostility when you are coming back from travel, and they do not in any way extort you when you are coming or you are going out. It takes love. It takes love for you not to hide the file of somebody who is pursuing a job within a ministry and wants to have that file moved, and you go and hide that file. That is actually not evidence of love. It is actually hatred. It takes love for you not to acquire property in America, acquire property in London, UK, in France, all over the world, for the sake of your family and family alone, while that money should have been used for the development of basic infrastructures for the benefit of the people. It takes love to do all that. But it takes hatred and selfishness for you to do everything for only your family. You do everything for you people from the same tribe with you. You do the one thing for only those that speak the same language or go to the same church or mosque with you. It takes hatred, absence of love for you to do all that. And so love is a very important input, as you rightly pointed out, in issue of governance. And whether there are leaders who have evidence of love towards governance, you and I, who are sitting down today to analyze this issue, we basically be in a position to answer whether there is that love. Because if there is love, from 1960 when we got political independence up till now, and we started with other nations, and we have seen what other nations have done. We look at the Asian country, we look at other developing nations like India, that we all started together and look at where they are today and look at where we are today. It's not as if they are better off in terms of basic natural resource. We are even better endowed. We have even great men and women who are better educated. And as I speak to you, there is nothing God has denied us in terms of resource, but whether human capital, natural resource. But you and I know today where we are and all that. So you will be in a better position to answer whether we have evidence of those who are in leadership, showing love to the
Mr. Ubani, this is what they say, you are serving the ball back to Alero. Is it because you know that she likes tennis? Anyway, I'm sure that this conversation is going in a particular direction now, Mr. Bamidele, because all of the things, what are the things we want us to talk about this morning? The economic realities that we are dealing with now, the youth agitation all over the country, the refinery working or not working, corruption cases and political upheavals and all of that. But now to make it all a function of love. Yeah.
I would rather use the word that Pastor Adeyemi used, conscience. Let's not use love. Let's use conscience, because he said, what we need in this country is conscience.
Leaders with conscience.
Leaders with conscience. That's enough for us. We'll take conscience. Let's forget about love. We'll take conscience.
Okay, so love is a little mushy, right?
Yes, it is.
No, because the reason I actually mentioned that is because he talked about conscience on Sunrise. But if subsequently at a conference, he spoke about innovative leadership. And he was saying that at the core of innovative leadership is love. That is why I brought that up.
Love of nation.
Love of nation, love of people. You know. But then the conscience element is the thing that can keep you away from owning 753 duplex. Oh, that got you.
I just tired.
So, how do we... Okay, one of the things that's played in my head before, Mr. Bamidele, and you're a human capital developer. So let's speak to that. In order to have leaders who will think about human capital development, we need to have leaders who go through the process. Do you think we have a process for building leadership that can create leaders with conscience? I know we have a NIPS, National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. Do you think it should be mandated that before you can become a leader anywhere in the Federal Republic of Nigeria, all 36 states, all 774 local governments, all 1,500 or thereabout ministries, departments, and agencies at the federal level, and several others at state levels, you need to go through NIPS. Do you think it will help us to create leaders with conscience?
Well, I would say that might be part of the processes later. But I still insist that the first point of call for any person growing up is the home. Now, I remember I was on this same platform some time ago, and I shared an experience. And I want to repeat that experience, because that is where it starts, as far as I'm concerned. We can build on it, we can institutionalize it and all of that, but if we get it wrong at that point, it's already becoming a bit late. Something happened at, within my family setting. We have three wonderful teenagers, and it was a Saturday. So all of them did their laundry and went to the back of the house and put them on the lines. Now, the youngest of them, later in the evening, went to pick our clothes and left the ones for our two siblings. And she was calling them to say, go and pick yours. Immediately, I said, madam, that is already your area, go and drop it. Then you go back and pick for your brother and for your sister. Because, you see, self-centeredness, selfishness is actually the center of the greed that you were talking about earlier. When it is all about me, myself. And myself. And if you don't tackle that at that foundational level, it will be attempting to break, to bend, a piece of fish when it has already become dry. If we get it right from that point, then it gets to school system. Starting from NIPS is too far for me. We have already failed. If we are waiting for NIPS to start raising leaders that will truly love their nation, love their community, love people around them. Primary school, secondary school, higher institution, are there programs that need to be built into the curriculum that will begin to make people own their nation? I'm glad that Reverend Julia Benitie is on this platform. There was a statement I heard her make long time ago. It has remained with me. She said, angels don't build nations. It is individuals who are passionately in love with their nation and are ready to pay the price that will build their nation. Then come again, we need to redefine success. Even again, starting from the home. I know too well that you might have X number of children. All of them are not going to be the same. One may be strong in one area and weak in another, but let everyone have a sense of value. When you have a sense of value and you are comfortable with who you are and who you have been created to become, it becomes less and less of envy, less and less of unnecessary competition, less and less of attempts to prove that you have also become something. So I would rather say that while NIPS may help, I think we need to make it a foundational thing that grows with us from childhood up to the point where we begin to get to that point where we talk about taking up leadership positions.
That's assuming that the parents themselves even know what to do. Madam, one of the things that I have contended, and I have said this quite a number of times, that how do you parent parents who need parenting?
Wow.
I've said that a number of times. Well, we're talking about national development, and you spoke to the elements, the next tier of leadership in the country, which is the states. We, the citizens, have a responsibility, don't we?
Yes.
What responsibilities do people have, and what are we supposed to do from today in the name and interest of our nation that can improve the state of the nation?
Very interesting question. Thank you. The reality is that a nation is in crisis, the parents may not be the first role or the first runner for a crisis like we have right now, because the parents themselves, many parents have become corrupt themselves. They are the breeders of the corruption that we see in the society, and the celebrators of the corruptions in their sons and daughters, even as they come home during this Christmas season, demonstrating what many people cannot answer, how they got it. And so really, when a society is in crisis, every leader that we have today in Nigeria came out of Nigeria. They are not strangers. Maybe few are strangers, but majority are not strangers. They are Nigerians. So if we keep repeating this type of leadership, it's a proof that the society itself is corrupted. So how does she begin to change? That two-pronged direction that has worked at the international level in all development of nations and the strategic changes that will happen. Number one, the religious sector. The religious sector holds a very important sway to changing the narrative and to raising a new consciousness, like Auntie Alera said, a new consciousness. And that is love for even country and family. The religious sector itself is being corrupted by their own fears and competitiveness. But we can get that back. We have a people who will be willing to raise a new kind of Nigeria. The second sector is education. Not all the education places are being corrupted. There are a few far in between that we can redeem. But with more incentive, the education sector, which I call ground zero, whether you are rich or poor going through to school, the curriculum. When we say education now, we're talking about the curricula of the schools, not the education, but the curriculum that we use, because we teach a subject called paradigms. Paradigms are created by molds. The molds we designs the mind. If you want the mind to change, you change the mold. So we need to create new molds in schools and also the media. If there's anything powerful today that holds sway over the minds of people, whether at media like we are doing and social media, we need new narratives. We need special programs, day and night, radio station. Instead of playing all kinds of music in the afternoon, we need programs across. But where does that come from? Again, it comes from that leader who say he wants to create change. So we are speaking to all of us. Leaders, wherever sector you are, whether you're a governor, whether you're the president, whether you are the CEO, whether you are in media as a boss, you need to know this country called Nigeria has the potential for greatness because she has all the primary resources required. Many nations don't even have what we have, but they've been able to even process other people's products to increase their value. But we have brought products and people that we can process. Over 200 million humans that we can process. But we are not doing the needful. We must begin to process our people, process the natural resources, and we will get the nation we want. Once again, spirits do not build nations. We can pray, we can fast, we still have to do the work. Angels don't do it. Nations have been built by humans, and we are human beings. We are not less human. We are Africans, but we are intelligent Africans. All over the world, the Nigerians stand out. So there's no excuse why our nation should be where she is. But because we lack the consciousness, we lack the love, we don't care. If we cared enough, certain things will not happen. And finally, the rule of law. As my brother, son, Ubani, and all the judiciary, those in the judiciary, whether internally, externally, as lawyers, barristers, the Bar Association, and all their 9 yards, law and order must come back. There are issues right now that we are having in the nation. If we don't put this nation back in law and order, where the judiciary takes responsibility and is impartial, ready to do even as the Constitution is, and eventually we begin to change it slowly, we need to act now. There is no story. All of us are involved in national transformation. It's not just the president. It's everybody, and we are all failing. Nobody should point out anywhere because we all have our job to do. Where we are you changing people? Are you building people? Are you looking around to the natural resources on how we can process them? Are there laws for us to export? Access to funding. What can we do? We need to do it now, and this is the time. Whatever we're doing, Nigeria is stopping at the fashion industry, she's stopping at the movie industry, but many people don't have access to funds to expand capacity and to bring in the GDP that we need. Nigeria has no excuse. She has the potential, she can do it, but it takes that consciousness and what we call love for country and love for people. And that's the bottom line of what is driving this poverty, the lack in our nation, the self-centeredness, and all of us trying to get titles. It's not about just money. Many of us want the titles. Many of us want to work heavy. We want rank a day. We want
Mrs. Benitie,
we want all sorts of things. We need to make up our mind and do something different.
Okay. I'm sure Mr. Ubani would like to react to what you just said. Mr. Ubani?
Yeah, thank you very much. I had issue with hearing all the things she was saying, maybe due to my own device connection, but I heard a bit of what she's saying. Issue of law from the sectoral level. I'm a lawyer, and clients come to me for me to represent them in a matter. I should be able to give my best service to my client with all amount of honesty. That from the sectoral level, I'm a lawyer, I should be able to do my own duty towards clients. I also should be able to do my duty towards justice. That whenever I am defending any case or prosecuting any matter, there must be evidence of the patriotism in that act. There must be evidence of honesty and principle stand concerning whatever I'm doing at every point in time. So also the person that is in the ministry. So also the journalist. So
oh, wow.
Oh, dear.
Also the accountant. So also the banking, that we must begin to do the right thing for the nation, right? It's very, very important. But let me tell you about the problem we're having in our nation. Is that if the system has treated you so badly, then you now come up with the idea that, look, there is no way for me to give the best, for that particular country or society. So there must be an inbuilt mechanism that you must give everyone equal opportunity and justice. I was frustrated in a particular case I was handling recently, where there was a court order saying somebody should not do certain thing, but the person went ahead to do it, and I involved the police. And police, I gave them the court order. I said, look, this is a court order restraining somebody from doing certain thing, and he shouldn't do it because of law and order. Police went there only for a call to come from a higher authority, asking that thing that the court has restrained from being done, that they should go ahead and do it. And in that wise, how do you now want to be patriotic? How do you want to show love to that kind of a country that have denied you justice? So most of the young ones in the country today, they are really, really aggrieved concerning the system, because the system has refused to give them justice. You will finish from university, you will not get employment. For those from the rich family, those who are big, their children will be put in the position either in central.
Oh dear, we lost him again.
Interesting angle that Mr. Ubani is coming with there.
But you have first class in the university, and the system do not evidence of showing love to you. Are you hearing?
Yes, we can hear you.
Are you hearing me, Ayo?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you.
I'm saying that there must be an inbuilt mechanism. There must be an inbuilt mechanism that shows love to citizens, that you can get justice, that when you are patriotic, you are going to be rewarded. Remember that there were some politicians in the 80s and in the 60s that when they had issue of financial problem or when they were sick, they were neglected. Meanwhile, they served the country with all their interest, with all their heart. But they have run into problem. They have stolen any money while they were in governance. But they're now having issue and the country neglects them. So how do you now really advise an incoming politician to show that level of patriotism by not acquiring so much wealth in case, for the rainy day? But if the system has been built in such a manner that it's justice everywhere, justice for the poor, justice for the rich, justice for everyone, there is no way any person will not live to love the country. Americans will say, God bless America. The same thing with the UK. They will say, God bless the Queen. So why is it that we're not saying?
Mr. Ubani, we also say God bless Nigeria. So the long and short of all this is that we need to think more about conscience and love in governance, we need to think about meritocracy. We need to think about law and order. All these, starting from when we are little, from primary school.
That's right.
Based on what Mr. Bamidele has told us this morning.
You know, I understand that there are a number of messages that are coming in. A number of people are very much interested in the conversation that we're having, and I think we should take one or two of them. Because really, at the end of the day, as we always say here, we are all we have, right? And that's why one of the things I like about the song that we started with this morning. We're all we have, and you know, the least we can do is show love to our country. Well, Festus Akimboyewa is saying, human capital, human capital, human capital is the main thing we need to transform our country. And we must pray to have leaders who will focus on human capital development and not on personal aggrandizement. Our country is suffering today because of lack of human capital development. And Skittish Money says, as Tola says, state of the nation, everyone needs to create spaces for other people to lead and love Nigeria. The number of spaces to excel is limited, and so the competition for the limited spaces is responsible for low productivity and bickering. Interesting. Is that why people take what doesn't belong to them? I don't know. But I'm just saying, all I can do is ask questions, right? So allow me to ask 2 questions. That's it.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I mean, there's no way we can exhaust this topic in, 30, 40 odd minutes that we had. But this is a conversation starter. And this is the much that we can take today. I'd like to thank our 2 guests who joined us from Abuja, Mr. Monday Ubani, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and Mrs. Juliet Benitie, Women Leadership Expert, and she's of the Institute for National Transformation, and we had Mr. Biodun Bamidele, Human Capital Developer, with us in the studio in Lagos. Thank you very much, lady and gentlemen, for coming to share your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Sunrise will return in just a moment, and we'll be looking at another interesting topic. Stay with us.